The impossible signal. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly around the Coalition starship Eternal Vigilance, its sleek crystalline hull gleaming under the light of unfamiliar stars. High Commander Xeraxia stood motionless on the command deck, all six of her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the unremarkable yellow star and its 8 planets. Her attention focused on the third world, a blue-green marble suspended in the darkness. "Such a primitive world," she remarked, her voice carrying the musical inflection common to the Solari species. "And yet they cause us such trouble." Behind her, strategic advisor Thulmek moved forward, his exoskeleton clicking softly against the polished floor. "Do not underestimate them, Commander. That has been the Coalition's mistake from the beginning. Earth had been discovered quite by accident 3 standard cycles ago. The Coalition, the dominant power bloc spanning 17 galactic sectors, had been expanding its influence toward the outer rim. This particular solar system had been marked for routine survey, just another forgettable dot on endless star charts. When the initial scout ships arrived, they'd found a species barely venturing beyond their planet's atmosphere. Humans, they called themselves. The Coalition assessment had classified them as a Level 3 civilization, technically spacefaring but confined to their home system, with no understanding of quantum mechanics or hyperspace mathematics. As per standard protocol, the Coalition had established automated monitoring stations at the system's edge and moved on. Earth was deemed irrelevant, a backwater world that would require centuries to evolve into anything worthy of Coalition attention. That should have been the end of it. "What is the status of the interference?" Xeraxia asked, her silvery skin rippling with concern. Thulmek consulted his neural interface. "Unchanged. The humans continue to intercept our quantum-encrypted transmissions. They'd broken through the 7th firewall." This was the impossibility that had brought the Coalition's most advanced warship to this unremarkable system. 6 months ago, Coalition intelligence had detected Earth-based signals infiltrating their most secure communication channels. At first, they'd dismissed it as a malfunction. When the evidence became irrefutable, they'd assumed it was the work of a rogue Coalition species sharing technology with the humans. The investigation had revealed something far more troubling. The humans had developed the capability independently. "Show me the latest intercept," Xeraxia ordered. A holographic display materialized, showing lines of decoded Coalition data. The humans hadn't just broken their encryption. They were systematically mapping Coalition territories, fleet movements, and command structures. Most alarming was the human interest in Coalition weapons platforms and defense grids. "Their technology is impossible," Xeraxia said, her voice quiet. "It defies every assessment we've made of their capabilities." Thulmek's mandibles clicked in agreement, which is why the Galactic Council has authorized the Quarantine Protocol. Quarantine Protocol. The euphemism made Xeraxia's inner membranes contract with distaste. In reality, it meant the complete neutralization of the human civilization. Not extinct, precisely, but reduced to pre-industrial capacity and genetically modified to limit their cognitive development. It was rarely implemented, but the Coalition had used it before on species that posed unexpected threats. "The fleet will arrive within 2 daily cycles," Thulmek continued. 37 vessels, including 5 planet crackers. More than sufficient. "And we're certain the humans have no knowledge of our presence?" Xeraxia asked. "Completely certain. Our stealth systems remain uncompromised." The commander nodded, though unease lingered in her consciousness. If the humans could break Coalition encryption, what else might they be capable of? "Begin final reconnaissance," she ordered. "I want detailed scans of every settlement, every defense installation." As her crew carried out her commands, Xeraxia gazed at the blue planet. Something about this situation felt wrong. The discrepancy between human capabilities and their apparent technological level was too great to be coincidental. "Commander," the urgent voice of her sensor officer interrupted her thoughts. "We're detecting energy signatures, emerging from Earth's moon." "Impossible," she snapped. There are no lunar installations in our records. The holographic display shifted, showing the cratered surface of Earth's satellite. Before her eyes, sections of the lunar surface began to retract, revealing massive structures beneath. "Full alert," she ordered. "Defensive protocols." Before her crew could respond, a beam of condensed energy erupted from the lunar surface, striking the eternal vigilance with unerring precision. The ship's shields flared brilliantly before collapsing. "Shields at 14%, reported the security officer, his voice trembling with shock. "They've penetrated our adaptive harmonics." Zerexia stood frozen, her mind struggling to process the implications. The humans not only knew they were there, they possessed weapons technology that could neutralize coalition defenses with a single strike. "Send emergency transmission to the fleet," she ordered. "Advise immediate." Another energy pulse struck the ship, and the communication array exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments. "We've lost hyperspace communications," reported her second-in-command, panic edging into his voice. "We're being hailed by the humans." The holographic display shifted, and Zerexia found herself looking at a human face. The creature appeared male, its skin weathered, its eyes unnervingly direct. "Coalition vessel," the human said, speaking perfect universal standard. "This is Admiral Thomas Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered protected space without authorization. Your stealth systems are impressive but outdated by our standards. Your weapons are powered down, and your drive systems are now under our control." Zerexia fought to maintain her composure. "This is High Commander Zerexia of the Coalition Expeditionary Force. Your world has been designated for quarantine under Section 7 of the Non-Interference Protocols. Any resistance will—" The human interrupted her with a sound she would later learn was called laughter, a short, harsh bark devoid of humor. "Commander," he said, "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. Earth is not subject to coalition authority. We never have been." A chill ran through Zerexia's nervous system. "All discovered worlds are subject to coalition authority," she stated, reciting the fundamental principle that had guided coalition expansion for millennia. "Commander," the human said, his expression softening slightly, "we weren't discovered. We were hiding." The holographic display expanded, showing the space around Earth's orbit. Ships were appearing, not the crude vessels coalition intelligence had attributed to human technology, but sleek, advanced warships emerging from what appeared to be dimensional pockets. "That's not possible," Fulmec whispered beside her. Within moments, more than 100 vessels surrounded Earth, their designs unlike anything in coalition records. They moved with a precision that suggested neural-linked command systems, technology the coalition had only theorized about. "We've monitored your approach and your communications," Admiral Chen continued. "We're aware of the quarantine fleet en route. I suggest you inform them that such action would be unwise." Zerexia felt her world shifting beneath her. Everything the coalition knew about humans was wrong. Catastrophically wrong. "What are you?" she asked, the question escaping before she could frame it more diplomatically. The human's expression remained calm. "We're exactly what we appear to be, a young species finding our way in the universe. The difference is that we've had help." The holographic display shifted again, showing a historical recording. It displayed humans, centuries earlier judging by their primitive clothing, meeting with species that Zerexia recognized with shock. The precursors, the mythical race that had disappeared from the galaxy 50,000 years ago, leaving only enigmatic ruins and incomprehensible technology. "They found us when we were still struggling with basic rocketry," Admiral Chen explained. "They recognized something in us. Potential, they called it. They gave us knowledge, guidance, and then they left. As was their way, we decided to remain quiet, to develop in our own direction without outside interference." Zerexia struggled to process this revelation. The precursors were semi-mythical even to the coalition, an ancient race that had apparently achieved technological perfection before vanishing. if they had mentored humanity. Your coalition isn't the first galactic power to arise, Chen continued. It won't be the last. We've watched empires rise and fall while we prepared. We didn't intend to reveal ourselves so soon, but your quarantine protocol forced our hand. A new alert sounded on Xeraxia's command console. The quarantine fleet had arrived, emerging from hyperspace at the system's edge. 37 warships, the mightiest armada the Coalition had assembled in centuries. Your fleet has arrived, Chen noted calmly. I suggest you communicate our situation to them. We would prefer to avoid unnecessary conflict. Xeraxia hesitated, torn between Coalition protocol and the evidence before her eyes. Restore our communications, she demanded. Already done, Chen replied. Choose wisely, Commander. The human's image vanished, replaced by the stern visage of Fleet Admiral Kravzor, Supreme Commander of the Quarantine Fleet. Commander Xeraxia, the Admiral growled. Explain your delay in reporting. Xeraxia took a deep breath. Admiral, I must advise against quarantine procedures. The human civilization is not as our intelligence suggested. They possess technology beyond our capabilities, and they have connections to the precursors. Kravzor's expression darkened. Preposterous. The precursors are myths, Commander. Your proximity to the human world has clearly affected your judgment. The quarantine will proceed as planned. Admiral, I strongly urge. Enough, Kravzor barked. You will withdraw your vessel to the designated observation position. The first planet crackers will deploy in 1 standard hour. The communication terminated, leaving Xeraxia staring at empty space. She turned to Thulmek, seeing her own dread reflected in his compound eyes. They won't listen, she said quietly. The Coalition never does, Thulmek replied. Not until it's too late. On the main display, the Coalition fleet was moving into attack formation, the massive planet crackers positioning themselves for optimal planetary bombardment. Against any normal Level 3 civilization, it would be overkill. Against what they had just witnessed. Commander, her sensor officer called out, voice tight with tension. The human vessels are moving. They're forming a defensive screen around their planet. 100 against 37. Favorable odds under normal circumstances. But nothing about this situation was normal. All systems restored, reported her second-in-command. We can rejoin the fleet. Xeraxia considered her options, centuries of Coalition loyalty warring with the evidence before her eyes. The humans could have destroyed her ship, but had chosen communication instead. Their technology was clearly superior, yet they had remained hidden, peaceful. No, she said finally. Maintain position. Open a channel to Admiral Chen. The human's face reappeared in the holographic display, eyebrows raised in question. Your fleet is not standing down, Xeraxia said. They don't believe me about your capabilities. Chen nodded solemnly. We anticipated as much. We've tried to minimize our presence in galactic affairs, Commander. We've kept to ourselves, developed our own path. But make no mistake, we will defend our home. There are billions of innocent lives in that fleet, Xeraxia said. They're following orders, acting on flawed intelligence. Something changed in the human's expression, a softening around the eyes that Xeraxia couldn't quite interpret. We understand the burden of following orders, Chen said. We have no desire for wholesale slaughter. Watch. The display shifted to show the Coalition fleet. The human vessels were now positioned between the fleet and Earth, a thin line of defense against overwhelming numbers. Then something extraordinary happened. From Earth's surface, thousands of small objects launched into space, forming a spherical cloud around the Coalition fleet. Not weapons, Xeraxia realized with shock, but transmitters of some kind. What are they doing? Thulmek whispered. The answer came moments later. Every ship in the Coalition fleet suddenly went dark, their systems shutting down simultaneously. No explosions, no destruction. Just 37 warships suddenly drifting helplessly in space. Selective electromagnetic pulse technology, Chen explained. Designed to temporarily disable rather than destroy. Their life support systems remain functioning, but weapons, drives, and communications are offline. They'll remain that way until we decide otherwise. Xeraxia stared in disbelief. The Coalition's most advanced fleet, neutralized in seconds without a single casualty. Now, Admiral Chen said, his voice carrying a new weight, perhaps the Coalition will be willing to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. We've prepared detailed information about our civilization, our history, and our intentions. You, Commander Xeraxia, will deliver it. Xeraxia found herself nodding. Why me? Because you listened, Shen replied simply. Sometimes, that's all it takes to change the course of history. As data streamed into her ship's systems, the true history of humanity and their precursor mentors, Xeraxia realized that the galaxy she thought she understood had just become infinitely more complex and infinitely more interesting. The humans have been forgotten by the galaxy, overlooked and underestimated. But now, their war fleet stood ready, not for conquest, but for recognition. No one was meant to arrive at Earth, but humanity had arrived on the galactic stage regardless, and nothing would ever be the same. The Awakening. The Grand Hall of the Coalition Supreme Council had never been so silent. Representatives from 17 galactic sectors sat frozen in their environmental chambers, processing the unprecedented crisis. The Coalition's most powerful armada hung powerless in space, disabled by technology that shouldn't exist, wielded by a species that had been categorized as barely spacefaring. Supreme Councilor Tar, the eldest of the Vex lore and titular head of the Coalition for the past 3 centuries, broke the silence. The human data package, is it genuine? He asked, his ancient voice rasping through the chamber's translation system. Science Director Eslaver rose from her seat, her translucent appendages glowing with bioluminescent agitation. We've verified it through multiple methods. The quantum signature cannot be falsified. This information comes directly from precursor archives. Murmurs swept through the assembly. For most spacefaring races, the precursors were legends, an ancient civilization that had achieved technological transcendence before vanishing from the galaxy. Their artifacts were rare, their technology largely incomprehensible. Yet here were the humans, claiming direct tutelage. Explain to me, Tar demanded, how our intelligence could have been so catastrophically wrong about Earth. The Director of Coalition Intelligence, a shadowy figure known only as the Observer, stepped forward. Unlike most council members who appeared as themselves, the Observer used an avatar, a featureless silhouette that concealed both species and identity. The humans employed technology beyond our detection capabilities, the Observer stated flatly. They maintained a facade of primitive development while building their true infrastructure beneath the lunar surface and in dimensional pockets. They'd been watching us while we thought we were watching them. How long? Demanded Councillor Ketsera of the militant Arconian Dominion. How long have they possessed this level of technology? The Observer's avatar shifted slightly. According to their data package, they've had dimensional engineering capabilities for at least 300 standard cycles. Their relationship with the precursors dates back nearly 1,000 years. The council chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. 1,000 years, while the Coalition had been expanding through the galaxy, considering itself the pinnacle of civilization, the humans had been quietly developing under precursor guidance. This changes everything, Science Director Eslaver whispered, though her words carried through the chamber. If the precursors chose them. It changes nothing. Councillor Ketsera slammed a clawed appendage against his podium. One planet, regardless of its technology, cannot stand against the combined might of the Coalition. Our disabled fleet is but a fraction of our military capacity. We should mobilize everything, crush this human insolence before they can. Before they can what? The new voice came from the center of the chamber, where no one had been standing moments before. The entire council turned as one to find a human figure materializing in their midst, a dignified older female with dark skin and silver hair, dressed in a simple blue uniform without ornamentation. "Director of Coalition Security," Ter exclaimed. "How did this creature breach our defenses?" The security director's nervous voice came through the communication system. "Supreme Counselor, all systems report normal function. There was no breach. She simply appeared." The human smiled slightly. "Your security is impressive, but dimensional phasing renders it somewhat irrelevant. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but time is a factor." Ditar recovered his composure first. "You stand in the heart of coalition power, human. Identify yourself." "I am Director Eleanor Kagawa, Earth Diplomatic Corps," she replied, her voice calm and measured. "I'm here to prevent an escalation that would benefit neither humanity nor the coalition." Counselor Ketsra leaped to his feet, barking orders to his personal guards. "Seize this intruder." The elite Arconian guards moved with practiced precision, energy weapons trained on the human. Director Kagawa made no move to defend herself, merely raising an eyebrow as the guards approached. They never reached her. An inch from her body, their momentum simply stopped, as if they had hit an invisible wall. "Personal dimensional shield," Kagawa explained conversationally. "One of many technologies we developed with precursor guidance. Quite useful in potentially hostile diplomatic situations." She turned back to the council, ignoring the frustrated Arconians. "Let me be clear. We are not here to threaten the coalition or disrupt the current galactic order. Earth has no territorial ambitions beyond our solar system. We simply wish to be left alone to follow our own developmental path." "Then why reveal yourselves now?" Science Director Eslaver asked. "Why not remain hidden?" "Your quarantine fleet forced our hand," Kagawa replied. "We've been content to let the coalition believe us primitive while we developed in isolation. But we cannot permit hostile action against our world." Supreme Counselor Ter leaned forward. "You disabled 37 of our most advanced warships without destroying a single one. Why such restraint?" For the first time, Kagawa's composed expression faltered slightly. "Because that is the legacy our mentors left us. The precursors taught us that technological supremacy brings responsibility, not entitlement." She gestured, and a holographic image appeared beside her, a recording from centuries ago. It showed humans in ancient clothing meeting, with tall, luminescent beings who could only be precursors. "They found us when we were still primitive, fighting among ourselves," Kagawa explained. "They could have conquered us easily or uplifted us to serve them. Instead, they taught us to find our own path." The recording showed precursors working alongside humans, teaching, guiding, but never directing. They recognized something in human nature, an adaptability, a resilience that they believed would be valuable to the galaxy's future, Kagawa continued. "They shared knowledge but insisted we develop it ourselves, find our own applications. And then they left," Ter said quietly. "As they left every world they touched." Kagawa nodded. "They told us their time in this dimension was ending, that new races would need to carry forward the pursuit of knowledge and harmony. They left us with a choice: join the galactic community immediately with their endorsement, or develop in isolation until we were ready to emerge on our own terms." "You chose isolation," Eslaver observed. "We chose to be sure of who we were before engaging with the larger universe," Kagawa corrected. "We observed, we learned, we prepared. We built our defenses and our infrastructure. We wanted to be certain that when we finally stood among the stars, we would stand as equals, not subordinates." Ter's ancient eyes studied the human carefully. "And now? Now we propose a formal recognition of Earth's independent status, with mutually beneficial exchange programs to follow. We have much to offer the coalition in terms of technological innovation, medicine, dimensional engineering. Or," Ketsray interrupted, "we could extract this knowledge by force. Your world is still one planet against thousands." Kagawa smiled, a small, almost sad expression. "Counselor, what you saw in the Earth system was a fraction of our defensive capability. We've had centuries to prepare, guided by the most advanced civilization this galaxy has ever known. She waved her hand, and the holographic display changed to show locations throughout Coalition space. Black sites, military installations, supposedly secret research facilities. We have observational posts throughout your territory, she continued calmly. Not for aggression, but for protection. If the Coalition were to launch a full-scale attack against Earth, the display shifted again, showing simulations of Coalition worlds going dark, their orbital defenses failing, their communication networks collapsing. We could end the war before your fleets left their home ports, Kagawa stated. No loss of life, no planetary destruction, just a technological paralysis from which you would need decades to recover. The council chamber was deathly silent. But that is not our desire, Kagawa added, her voice softening. We've watched the Coalition bring stability to much of the galaxy. For all its flaws, your civilization has prevented countless interstellar wars, provided technological assistance to developing worlds, maintained crucial ecological balance on thousands of planets. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. We don't wish to destroy what you've built. We wish to exist alongside it, independent but cooperative. Dieter exchanged glances with the other council members. Even Ketzera seemed subdued, the implications of humanity's capabilities sinking in. These are extraordinary claims, Dieter said finally. What assurances can you offer that humanity will not use this precursor technology to dominate rather than cooperate? Kagawa nodded, as if she had expected the question. We anticipated your concerns. As a gesture of good faith, we're prepared to share certain technologies immediately, particularly in medicine and environmental restoration. Additionally, we invite a Coalition delegation to Earth to observe our civilization firsthand. She paused, then added, we will also return your disabled fleet, fully functional, as soon as formal recognition of Earth's independent status is confirmed. After a moment of stunned silence, Science Director Eslaver spoke. Director Kagawa, if I may, the precursors, what happened to them? The galaxy has wondered for 50 millennia. Something changed in Kagawa's expression, a distant sadness, a weight of knowledge. They did not die, she said quietly. They evolved. Their physical forms became limiting. They transcended to a different dimensional state of existence. They still watch in their way, though they rarely intervene directly anymore. They still exist. Eslaver's voice trembled with scientific excitement. In a manner we can barely comprehend, Kagawa confirmed. They told us that someday we too might follow their path, but that first we had responsibilities to this reality, to this galaxy. Dieter leaned forward. And what did they believe those responsibilities to be? To learn, to grow, to help others do the same, to preserve knowledge and life in all its forms. Kagawa's eyes met the ancient counselors, not to conquer or control, but to understand and protect. For the first time, in the centuries-long history of the Coalition Supreme Council, a vote was unanimous. Earth would be recognized as an independent entity, neither subject to Coalition authority, nor seeking to supplant it. The diplomatic corps would establish immediate channels for technological exchange, cultural understanding, and mutual defense arrangements. 3 standard months later, Commander Xerxia stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital diplomatic station. Below her, the blue-green planet turned serenely, white clouds swirling across its surface. Beside her stood Admiral Chen, now her liaison to the human diplomatic corps. Your council is remarkably adaptable, Chen observed. Most established powers resist change more strenuously. Xerexia's multifaceted eyes reflected the Earth's light. The Coalition did not survive 17 millennia by being inflexible. When presented with incontrovertible evidence, we adjust. Even when that evidence contradicts everything you believed about your place in the galaxy. Xerexia made the trilling sound that passed for silvery laughter. Perhaps especially then. There is a certain relief in discovering one is not required to be the ultimate authority. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched a sunrise creep across Earth's Pacific Ocean. "You could have conquered us," Xeraxia said finally. "With the technology at your disposal, you could have dominated the coalition long ago. Why didn't you?" Chen considered the question. "Would you believe it was because the precursors advised against it?" "Partially," Xeraxia replied. "But I sense there's more." The human nodded slowly. "We study your history, all of it, not just the official records. We saw civilizations that conquered because they could, that expanded because nothing stopped them. Many brought benefits to those they subjugated: stability, technology, protection. But they also brought stagnation." He turned to face her directly. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, Commander. It's our diversity of thought, our competing ideas, our endless arguments about what should be rather than what is. The precursors saw that in us, not a unified vision, but a tumultuous marketplace of possibilities. And you feared losing that if you became conquerors." "We knew we would lose it," Chen corrected. "Power corrupts not because it's evil, but because it simplifies. One vision becomes dominant. Alternatives wither. Progress slows." Xeraxia considered this. It ran counter to everything the coalition had built itself upon: unity, harmony, a single direction for galactic civilization. And yet, she could not deny that in recent millennia, coalition advancement had plateaued compared to its early explosive growth. "So what happens now?" she asked. Chen smiled. "Now we learn from each other. You have 17,000 years of experience managing a galactic civilization. We have precursor knowledge and a tendency to approach problems from unexpected angles. Together we might achieve something neither could alone." Xeraxia finished. Below them, Earth continued its eternal rotation, a world that had hidden in plain sight while preparing not for war, but for a different kind of awakening, one that would transform the galaxy not through conquest, but through collaboration. No one had been meant to discover Earth's secret, but now that it was revealed, the future of the galaxy looked brighter than it had in 50,000 years. "To new beginnings," Chen said, using the human expression that Xeraxia's translator struggled with momentarily. "To new beginnings," she agreed, watching as the first light of a new day spread across the ocean below.